A childhood clip flickers on screen. A tiny girl with a voice that feels too big for her body, grinning like the stage is a playground and the spotlight is a friend. Then, hard cut. Ariana Grande today. Camera flashes, strobing, couture perfect, wicked era elegance. The kind of fame that looks like a dream. Until you remember dreams don't usually come with a comment section. And that's the time warp that hooks people. Ariana didn't just grow up. She transformed, from theater kid to Nickelodeon star, from pop princess to chart-dominating powerhouse, from viral sweetheart to headline magnet. But the real story isn't only the glow-up. It's the moments that tried to rewrite her image in public. So tonight, we're not doing gossip. We're doing the timeline, then versus now, with the pressure points included. And I'm planting 3 open loops right now, 3 questions we're going to pay off. First, how did Donut Gate, a few seconds of messy behavior caught on camera, turn into a reputation stain people still bring up years later, like a receipt they refuse to throw away? Second, after the Manchester tragedy changed everything, how did Ariana rebuild her relationship with fame when fame suddenly felt dangerous, heavy, and personal? Third, in the era of relationship headlines and moral debates online, why did Ariana's private life become a public courtroom, where strangers argued about her choices like they were evidence? Because Ariana's story isn't just about talent, it's about what happens when a voice becomes a brand, and the world starts believing it owns the brand. Before Ariana Grande became a global pop headline, she was the kind of kid who looked most alive when she was performing. She was born in Boca Raton, Florida, and even the earliest stories people repeat about her have the same core detail. She wasn't just singing because adults told her to. She was singing like it was a natural language, like the stage gave her a place to focus all the energy that didn't fit neatly into normal life. That theater kid instinct matters because it explains the most important then versus now contrast in her entire career. Then, she's a child who wants to be heard, purely, joyfully, without strategy. Now, she's a woman who has to manage being heard too much, every note analyzed, every photo debated, every pause turned into a theory. When you look at Ariana's early trajectory, it's clear she trained the way serious performers train, not as a hobby, but as a craft. She worked in local theater and eventually landed a role in the Broadway musical 13 as a teenager, an experience that taught her discipline before she ever had a global audience. Broadway doesn't reward vibes. It rewards repetition, timing, stamina, and the ability to deliver even when you're tired. That kind of early discipline becomes a foundation she leans on later, especially when the world starts confusing Ariana the person with Ariana the product. And that's the hidden twist of her childhood. It wasn't only about being talented. It was about learning to perform on demand, to switch it on, hold the note, hit the mark, smile through nerves, and deliver anyway. Because once you can do that, opportunity finds you faster. But so does the pressure. In those early years, the dream still looks innocent. Auditions, rehearsals, a family supporting a kid with a gift. No scandals, no headlines, no moral debates about who she's dating or what she should represent. Just a young performer climbing toward the next stage. But the next stage wasn't just bigger. It was a machine, TV fame, where her image would get boxed into a character so tightly that escaping it would become its own battle. When Ariana broke into mainstream TV, the world didn't meet Ariana Grande the performer. The world met a character, and the character came with a box. On Victorious, she played Cat Valentine with a voice and personality dialed up to cartoon bright, the kind of role that instantly sticks in people's minds. It was a gift and a trap at the same time. The gift was visibility, millions of viewers, instant recognition, a young audience that grew attached to her face and energy. The trap was that, to many people, she wasn't Ariana anymore. She was Cat, and anything outside that tone felt like a contradiction. That's the first real collision in her time warp story. You can outgrow your childhood, but outgrowing an image the public loves is harder. Because TV fame teaches audiences to think they know you. They don't just watch you, they form a relationship with a version of you that was designed in a writer's room. Then, Sam and Cat happened, and the box got even tighter. More screen time, more exposure, more moments that made her look like the cute, quirky, harmless archetype. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, Ariana was already doing what theater kids always do: working, recording, training. Treating her voice like a weapon she was sharpening for a bigger stage. Here's the quiet tension. While fans were laughing at the character, Ariana was building an exit strategy. Because the truth is, pop music doesn't automatically respect child stars. It doubts them. It waits for them to fail. It expects them to be manufactured, to be temporary, to be famous for being famous. So if Ariana wanted to be taken seriously as an artist, she couldn't just release a song. She had to prove she was more than a TV personality wearing a pop costume. And the moment she started stepping out of the box, the internet began doing what it always does when a woman changes lanes. It judged the change, not just the work. Suddenly the conversation wasn't only, can she sing? It was, who is she becoming? Next comes the breakout, where Ariana doesn't just escape the box. She builds a new one called superstardom. Ariana's pop breakout wasn't soft. It was a takeover disguised as a glow-up. Once her music began landing with real force, people stopped speaking about her like a TV girl who sings, and started speaking about her like a vocalist with a once-in-a-generation instrument. Her voice became the headline: power, range, control, the kind of tone that makes even casual listeners pause and go, wait, she's serious. And in pop culture, seriousness is currency. Then came the formula, the thing that turned Ariana from successful into unavoidable. Part of it was sound, glossy hooks that hit fast, melodies that stay in your head, vocals stacked like a choir built from one person. Part of it was branding, a look that became instantly recognizable, a visual shorthand people could imitate in a selfie and feel like they belonged to her world. And part of it was timing. She rose in an era where fandom wasn't just support, it was a machine that could trend, defend, attack, and rewrite narratives in real time. But the Ariana formula came with a cost. When your brand becomes iconic, your life becomes content. At first, the headlines were good headlines, chart wins, sold-out tours, award moments. Yet the better she did, the more the public started treating her like a symbol instead of a person. Every era created a new argument about who she was supposed to be. Sweet, dangerous, innocent, calculated, empowering, problematic. The list never ends because symbols aren't allowed to be complicated. They're only allowed to be useful. This is where the Timewarp contrast starts to sting. Then, she performed because she loved it. Now, she performs while being judged for what the performance means. And when you're famous at Ariana's level, meaning gets assigned to you whether you asked for it or not. A facial expression becomes a personality diagnosis. A moment of bad behavior becomes a moral identity. A love song becomes a court transcript. That's the world she stepped into, where millions of strangers feel qualified to decide whether you're real. So the pop breakout isn't just success, it's the beginning of permanent surveillance. And that's why one of her most infamous controversies wasn't a complex scandal. It was a tiny moment in a shop, caught on camera, turned into a headline that lived longer than it deserved. But the darker pivot in her story isn't even that. The darker pivot is Manchester, because after that, fame didn't just feel heavy, it felt dangerous. Ariana's pop breakout wasn't soft. It was a takeover disguised as a glow-up. The world didn't just watch a pop star react, it watched a young woman try to carry grief that never belonged to her alone, yet was now tied to her name forever. This is the point where Ariana's then versus now transformation stops being about aesthetic eras and becomes about survival. Fame used to mean noise, charts, tours, cameras, attention. After Manchester, fame meant something heavier: responsibility. The feeling that the thing you love, performing, can suddenly become a place where people get hurt. It's hard to explain what that does to an artist unless you've watched it happen, the way a stage can stop feeling like a playground and start feeling like a risk. And then Ariana made a choice that rewired the story. Instead of disappearing, she returned to Manchester and organized One Love Manchester, a benefit concert held on June 4, 2017, raising funds for victims and families, and broadcast around the world. It became a public act of defiance against fear, love used as a strategy, not a slogan. But healing doesn't happen neatly. In later reflections, Ariana has spoken about how certain years were filled with processing a lot, and how even something as small as fashion choices could become part of self-protection, comfort, hiding, trying to breathe through it. So this chapter matters because it changes how you interpret everything that comes next. The internet still wants scandal. The headlines still chase her private life. But after Manchester, Ariana's story carries a different undertone, the cost of being visible and the courage it takes to keep showing up anyway. Here's the hard truth about Ariana's timeline. After she became a global name, mistakes didn't stay small. They became symbols. So we're opening the case files the way the internet rarely does. Claim, context, what's publicly reported, what changed after. Case File A, Donutgate, 2015. Claim, she's disrespectful and careless. Context. In July 2015, surveillance footage published by outlets showed Ariana in a California donut shop appearing to lick an unpurchased donut and saying, "I hate America," triggering instant backlash around hygiene, entitlement, and what she meant by the comment. Publicly reported, the incident led to multiple apologies, including public statements and a video apology. Reports also noted she would not face charges over the incident. What changed after? This was the rude awakening moment, when Ariana learned the camera isn't just around during performances. It's around during everything. And once the internet decides a clip defines you, it can survive longer than your apology. Case File B, The Love Life Courtroom. Era claim. Her relationships prove who she is. Context. Ariana's music is emotionally direct, and pop culture loves turning emotional honesty into a verdict. Every romantic chapter became a morality play online. Fans and critics writing narratives about her character based on timelines they don't fully know. Publicly reported, the real pattern wasn't one single scandal. It was the constant trial by comment section. Paparazzi photos treated like evidence, lyrics treated like confessions, silence treated like guilt. What changed after? Ariana's public image started splitting into two versions, the artist making work and the internet version being judged. And once that split happens, even neutral events get interpreted as either redemption or proof. Case File C, Divorce. Plus, New Relationship Headlines, 2023-2024. Claim, this is messy, pick a side. Context, reports confirmed Ariana and Dalton Gomez separated and later finalized their divorce in March 2024. Around the same broader period, she was linked to Ethan Slater, her Wicked co-star, sparking intense online debate because both had prior relationships and the public tried to map who knew what when. Publicly reported, the Associated Press reported the divorce was official as of March 19, 2024, and described settlement details. People reported on Slater finalizing his divorce and noted the relationship began after separations, while coverage elsewhere filled in additional timeline context. What changed after? This is where Ariana's private life becomes courtroom loop fully pays off. The public didn't just watch, people tried to moral score the situation, turning a personal transition into a permanent headline filter. And here's the twist that ties every case together. Ariana's controversies didn't end her career. They taught her how to move, how to protect privacy, how to let work speak, and how to survive a culture that confuses visibility with ownership. So what's the real Ariana Grande time warp? It's not just a transformation of looks or eras. It's a transformation of what fame costs. She began as a theater kid chasing the feeling of a spotlight. She became a pop star whose spotlight never shuts off, where a donut shop clip can become a permanent stain, and where private relationships get treated like public evidence. Then Manchester changed the entire shape of her story. Because after that, Ariana's now carries something heavier than brand strategy: resilience. She kept creating, kept showing up, and eventually redirected the narrative toward artistry and reinvention, especially as she moved into the Wicked era with a new kind of poise. Timewarp verdict: talent made her famous. Trauma and headlines made her sharper, but transformation is what made her last. Loop tease: next Timewarp. Ariana's childhood detail fans swear predicted her Glinda-coded reinvention.